Who are you, really, at your core, without the identification to things, people, situations, careers, things, possessions, anything that is material in nature? What is the essence that your soul came here to embody? What is the consciousness that gives life to your being? Who are you when you get into that lens of perspective, in which you start to understand that you are not your physical being? You are not the consequence of things that have happened to you that makes you shape up a perception of reality and yourself. You are something transcendental in nature. You are something pure, innocent, vulnerable to life, and something ethereal in nature. You are a fragment of source. You are consciousness in flesh and skin. You are a derivative of universal truth. So everything that you come to feel and experience and know as a part of yourself is true in nature. And yet many of us don't know who we are because we don't understand the value of the self. So this is what we need to start to realize. The self is an amalgamation of concepts that we learn to associate with. Stuff that people have told us about us, our past, things we have gone through, things we have witnessed, things that we like and dislike, and preferences that were formed as an accumulation of life experience and connections to other people that ended up shaping our perception of ourselves. But this self is really just, in our minds, a self-concept, a collection of mentalized conceptions about who we are based on how other people respond to us. For example, as a child, you might have had a certain desire or a liking to something that was rejected. Because you felt pain relative to how you felt when you were rejected by somebody else, when you were doing that thing that you enjoyed, you might have pushed away the feeling, inspiring you to do that thing, and became more closed off in that sense. Oftentimes we learn to suppress our authentic emotions simply because we start feeling like being our authentic self is not going to be beneficial in the long run. We may feel like choosing ourselves and our self-worth is going to be degrading because other people force us to think differently. So this concept of a self as a fluid essence, as something authentic and raw and universal in nature, is often corrupted when we are very young. Children often feel like they need to start fitting into a mold, which can begin as early as their preschool years, in early childhood, wanting to fit into a collective of people that feel and think in a certain way, wanting to do what all the other kids do, wanting to blend in, and to lose a sense of yourself just to feel more a sense of belonging. This is not something that leads to the understanding of the self and in the long term ends up reducing to simply choosing conformity for good. Of course, conformity is not the answer to finding ourselves, and this is why it's so difficult to know the true self in today's world. With countless distractions and opportunities for us to run away from ourselves, many people find themselves trying to pursue happiness by just eliminating the self altogether. By choosing an appealing job, choosing to live the dream life, in a certain house, with a certain car, having certain things, certain possessions to flaunt to prove a sense of how worthy you are, choosing certain partners in order to appear more attractive or to feel better about yourself. What people do in these situations is just try to put their self into a box that they believe will result in appearing more likable, more special, more popular, more relevant, all the while eliminating a true sense of who they are. This degradation to the self results in narcissism, loneliness, anxiety, depression, and most other mental issues that we deal with today. Because in the chase for something away from the self, we are simply putting our mind into a prison in which it is unable to see the truth of itself because it's so attached to all the illusions of what it is not. Ultimately, anyone who is running away from themselves ends up dealing with misery, discomfort, and pain, because there is no way to preserve an inauthentic self without experiencing the pain of choosing that inauthenticity. This is because at the soul level, we can never be corrupted. We are whole. We have our own soulful desires, preferences, characteristics, and unique qualities. As soon as we try to degrade those things, we end up choosing to walk the inauthentic path, which leads to us abandoning our true values, virtues, feelings, and desires. In doing so, we disconnect ourselves from the truth. We stop honoring our feelings. We stop trusting our intuition. We do things simply because we logically think that that will lead to happiness, that we will somehow find more gratification by choosing to walk the desirable route, the route that everyone else walks. And really, deep down, we want the exact opposite. What we want at the deepest level as a human being capable of feeling fully and experiencing its utmost potential is to explore the possibilities of the self, to understand the multifaceted nature of our being, and to connect to the essence of truth that lives within us. The reason why we don't do this is because this poses, oftentimes, an extreme danger to our sense of stability. It is threatening to look into the eyes of our inner self and to realize where we have been living a lie. Because in doing so, we have to end situations which allow us to keep lying to ourselves. By choosing to honor the true self, we may have to end relationships, leave jobs, change habits, depart from routines, and detach from things and situations and circumstances in our lives which keep us stuck to this false self. The false self is really just the composite ego, the storehouse of all the experiences that have shaped an identity that is not true in nature. This identity is a shell, is a way for us to seclude ourselves to what feels comfortable and what makes us feel like we are safe in the world. All the while, the true self is fearless in nature. It cannot be inhibited by falsity at all. But the reason why we're so afraid to tune into this true self is because of this very threat that it poses to the stability of our lives. When you dare to peer beneath the veil of the false self, you will see that there is no reason for you to hold on to the negative patterns and habits in your lives. There is no need to impress people, to present a false persona, to do things that you don't want to be doing, to play this fake game with yourself, in order to feel like you are somehow going to be validated in this false identity that you're choosing to espouse. You start to laugh at your own inauthenticity and see the facade for exactly what it is, which is a weak attempt created by the ego to feel more whole, all the while depriving itself from its true wholeness. The paradox is that the true self is always whole. It has nothing to prove. It has nothing to flaunt. It is spiritual, wise, truthful, and beautiful in nature. When we can connect to that purity of our true self, we can see the light of consciousness and we know what to follow in order to really put our best qualities on display. We will know our purpose. We will know what feels right because we will be plugged into this frequency of truth which emanates from our soul. Doing this can feel like doing the deepest, hardest shadow work, because to look in the light of the true self is the same as diving into the shadow and trying to battle the most inauthentic projections of self. To look into the light of your true self is to illuminate all of these inconsistencies of your character. It's to see through your fears, your inhibitions, and every deception that you've created for yourself in order to run away from this truth of your being. To choose the true self is to choose to unite from within, which means you have to depart from all the disunity that may have been existent in your life before that point. It's to disconnect from everything in the world around you that represents this chase for more disunity. To reconnect with your true self is to come home to you, which means putting to sleep all of the aspects of self that have not been conducive to your continued expansion. There is a high point of consciousness that we can all ascertain when we become radically curious to discover our true self and to unravel the mystery of who we are. To do this, we need to be asking ourselves questions. Like, what do I truly like? Who am I without all of these physical things? What do I want to be doing? And how do I really feel? The answers may surprise you because many of us do not actually take the time to tune into this integrity of who we are. We don't dare to look through all of the things that we've been conditioned to doing, saying, and feeling because we don't think that that true self even deserves to be seen. But how then can we aspire to achieve joy? How can we expect to have things go our way if we are neglecting the deepest and purest part of us? If you are not choosing to unify with this deepest, purest part of yourself, then you cannot expect to achieve a united state of being in life as a whole. How can you expect to experience relationship success, or abundant health, or success, or a feeling of purpose if you are departing from your true purpose, which is to experience unity consciousness for yourself? To begin doing this, we need to discern. We need to understand that the pursuit of happiness that is often lived out of a desire to escape the true self is really just a fleeting desire to escape truth. Many of us are conditioned to believe that joy, love, success, purpose, and happiness look and feel a certain way. Except when we try to fit ourselves into a template of what a societally conditioned model of these things looks like, we end up feeling empty. Because the pursuit of happiness is really just a hamster wheel in which you're constantly chasing something dangling on the other side of your ego's disillusionment. To truly start experiencing joy and bliss, we need not try to add new things into our experience. We need to begin by experiencing the truth of ourself and start eliminating everything that has been blockading our awareness of who we are. We need to start being truthful with the way that we feel. And we need to start taking our feelings seriously, because every inner urge that we have to do something, to say something, to feel something is completely true in nature. And we can trust that anything we are perceiving deep down within us is a reflection of what we are going to be experiencing in life. Because yes, every time you neglect to follow your true self, there will be a repercussion. There will be one or another way that you have to deal with your own dishonesty in the real world. To discover the true self is to experience soulful liberation. It's to experience alignment. And in that state, we can know who we are and what we are here for, which is to maintain that alignment and to do everything that allows us to do so. Allow yourself to befriend yourself, to look into the mirror with a smile, and to ask who you really are in a way that invites the true nature of your soul to come out, to reveal its true colors, to play the game of life by learning to interact with the world authentically, to bring its fullest qualities to the surface and its gifts and abilities to actually be acknowledged. Bring all of that you are to the surface and you will understand who you are. But to do so, you first need to start understanding how you feel and to start honoring that that indeed is your truth.